Welcome to Another Triathlon Podcast, the podcast that brings the electrifying world of triathlons right into your headphones. Journey into captivating conversations, share the excitement of race recaps, enjoy the humor only a triathlete would understand, and join us as we debunk myths and bring you the bare, thrilling truths of the triathlon world. So feel your heart pound, breathe in anticipation, and get ready to dive into the world of triathlon. This is Another Triathlon Podcast. Enjoy the ride.
We're back with another episode of Another Triathlon Podcast brought to you by Mauna Endurance. Jenna-Caer here, and as always, I'm joined by the incredible duo, Fede and Josh, and we're absolutely buzzing to dissect some of the races that happened this weekend, and there's some fun things that came out as well. So we've got our staple, What the F Moment of the Week, promises some interesting insights into the Paris test event, and then we'll be sharing our favorite triathlon-focused social media posts of the week, which had me dying laughing. Plus, as always, our listeners sent in some great questions that both the coaches and Josh will answer, and we'll provide a little bit of insight. But the crown jewel of today's episode, the thing that everyone is buzzing about and talking about, is the race recap of the PTO US Open. The anticipation leading up to this was absolutely palpable, and we are going to dive deep into everything that happened on the day because it was something else. It delivered everything we were hoping for and more. So grab your recovery drink, settle in, and let's get this show on the road. But first, Fede, give us a sneak peek. What's going on in your training and life right now?
Hey, Jenna. Hey, Josh. Hope you guys are doing well. Last week, I went to the lab, actually. I'm doing a lot of testing with oxygen consumption and a lot of devices to see if we can gauge training adaptation using oxygen in the muscles and how, they contract and the utilization of oxygen at different intensities. And there's a couple of different devices which we might touch in further episodes. And because it's a less invasive method than lactate, you don't have to pinch your ear or anything. So definitely been busy, researching all of that stuff and looking forward to sharing the results in the next couple of weeks and months ahead.
That will be fun to geek out on a little bit when you get some of those results and see kind of where you're at and what some of the benefits of that are once you do get those results.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure.
Awesome. How about you, Josh? What's going on with the marathon training?
We might be back to triathlon training a little bit more full boat after this week. I have been going really well. The runs have been going really well. The bikes and the swims and strength training, everything's been going great. I got down to Florida on Wednesday, went for a 6-mile run and started to feel a little bit of a tweak in my right leg, right ankle. But I was fine. The next morning I went and met a friend and went for an 8-mile threshold run. We did a couple of intervals. And towards the end of the run, crossing the street, I was like, oh, crap. I'm limping a little bit. And I could barely walk the rest of the afternoon. So, yeah. But I've been rehabbing it, red light therapy. I brought that with me, thankfully, icing. So kind of got through it, but I'm afraid to go to the doctor at this point. So it's a managing situation right now. I'm still able to ride, swim, and do things like that. So I can stay in shape. How I can stay in shape and pull off a 26.2 in just over a month, that I'm not so sure about anymore, but we shall see. It's a little setback, but hey, I started to throw in a few extra miles every other day, and I didn't stick to the plan that I should have, and you learn.
You know what, though? It's definitely a case of it's the months of consistent training and effort that make the difference in there. It's not a few sessions here or there. It's not a couple weeks downtime. Because you've been putting in such consistent work for so long. You still got some endurance going in there. Now, paces might change a little bit if you can't run for the next month, which I'm sure won't be the case. Give it a little bit of time to recover and a little bit of downtime, but you'll definitely still feel the effects of all those months. And hopefully it's just a bit of soft tissue work, a bit of inflammation, and you can work through it and get back to it. But it sounds like you're doing all the right things with a bit of recovery work, and sticking the biking and the swimming will help keep that aerobic foundation going. You'll be back at it in no time.
That's the hope. And I did find out the elliptical is actually a pretty useful tool as well. I had no pain, and I did that for almost an hour and 20 minutes yesterday. So that's another option, another tool, but it doesn't replicate 20-mile runs and things like that. But whatever, we'll get there.
I'll tell you, I was really worried. One year I did, I was supposed to do Ironman Canada. And I had the long distance world championships a month later. And I am twisting my ankle the day before Ironman Canada, ironically at the kids' race. I'm trying to get a picture of my son running across the line in there. So couldn't do Ironman Canada, couldn't run at my furthest run in the month between Canada and the long distance world champs was 4 miles that I did once because it was just so painful every time in there. But it's one of those things where your body, if you have put in the time, I ended up negative splitting and having my fastest ever run in there. But I was so mentally fresh and hungry for it at that time. It was like you get to the point where you're willing to kind of go to those very limits if you go into it fresh. So it's not always the end of the road there if you have to take a little bit of downtime. Hopefully that'll be the case for you too.
Yeah, it's just a new road. That's all. We'll see where it leads.
Love the attitude. That's awesome.
Yeah. So how about you? How was your weekend? I know you had a long drive and then a bunch of races on the docket. How'd that end up going?
Not as expected. So it turns out shocking. I'm not Christian Blumenfeld. Cannot pull off all races every weekend. I know everyone's shocked to hear that. Not on the same level as Blumenfeld.
That's Wow.
So yeah, it's been pretty much like race, recover, and decided to jump in, adding in 3 bike races 6 days after Ironman Calgary 70.3, on top of a stressful week. And yeah, it just did not happen. So I went out, it was supposed to be a 90K bicycle road race on the Saturday, and then a 900-meter hill climb on the Sunday and a crit today. I got through half of the first race. I was done. It was so funny. It was one of those things where I was in the road race, and it's a whole different feel. You're just kind of covering the attacks. Anytime there's a hill, everyone goes hard. Totally different from triathlon.
You're running in a pack, right?
Yeah. So there's a peloton there, and it's basically when someone attacks, you go max effort, get back onto them, and then everyone cruises easy for a bit, and someone attacks over and over. So definitely fun to mix it up. And it was one of those things where the legs were there. I was able to cover every attack. It was fine. There's this big hill that you go up on each lap, which last year nearly killed me twice. And this time got up the hill at the front. It wasn't that bad. And it was just like the legs were there, but my head was so not there. I was like, I don't want to be doing this right now. I was just like, I really do not want to be doing this. And for me, that's a huge red flag for me because I love endurance sports. I love pushing my body. I love seeing what I can do. This is totally my wheelhouse. So if I'm not hungry for a race or hungry for training, something's a little off in there. So it's my sign that I was starting to get a little bit burnt out, not so much from the training because I've been, recovering well in between, but just, the intensity and the mental energy that goes into racing. I definitely found draining on top of kind of a hectic week because we're putting on LATAP Canada next weekend. So I was just like, why am I doing this? If I'm not having fun, if I'm like dreading just doing the rest of this race, the only reason I could think of to stick in it was other people's perception because it's embarrassing to drop out of a race, right? Like I put myself out here on social media through the podcast saying, hey, I'm going to go do all these races. And when I figured out that was the only reason I would keep going, I was like, well, that's not a good enough reason to put myself through this, right?
Yeah.
It's it's kind of funny. I'm not a professional athlete. This isn't my job. This is what I do for fun, for enjoyment. So if I'm not having fun, then what am I doing out there? So decided to pull the plug halfway through that first race because it was 2-loop course and that's where my car was. And then the next day it was kind of like, do I go? So I had a good talk with my coach, and it was like, it's not that I'm tired. It's not that I'm run down. So he gave me some good advice. Like, just go do what sounds like fun. Like, do what makes you excited to do. He said, just don't run further than 18 miles. So I went and ran 18 miles. And it was exactly what I needed. Just getting back to the stuff that I love to do, no pressure. My favorite sessions are just kind of the long aerobic work. So went and did that and felt happy and excited again after that one. And yeah, so it had been stressing me out a little bit. Just doing all these races meant I was detraining for Kona and stuff and everything else going on. So I'm like, yeah, gonna ditch the races, gonna get back into the Ironman training stuff that I enjoy the most. And yeah, just kind of do what sounds like fun because there's lots of racing and lots of stuff ahead. So yeah, go do that.
Well,
Yeah.
I think you made the right decision. It sounds like you got yourself back to where you needed to be, and it's a good lesson for all of us too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I use social media a lot for accountability and things like that, but it doesn't always mean you have to go through and push yourself to a limit of something we're not professional athletes at this. You're coaches. I have a lot of people who follow me for inspiration and stuff like that. So I do feel that accountability, but at the same time, you also have to be an example in times where it's not working out too. So kudos to you for doing that.
Yeah.
And then checking in with your coach and seeing, I got to check in with my coach. I don't think he knows about my ankle yet. So that's a good reminder to do.
Yeah.
He saw all my workouts. He probably thinks everything's okay, but
yeah, I have to say, this is just the best community. Like, I got such an outpouring of support because I was a little nervous to put it out there on social media because there is a mentality of, you got to train hard and suffer and toughen up kind of thing. And it's like, well, in some cases, yes, but it's not all about that. So I got so much positivity when I put it out there. And then this morning I went to see the crit that I was supposed to be racing and cheer some people on there and just got so much positivity and support. So it was, it's really what I love most about this community. They're kind of supportive, there for the ups and downs, and everyone's kind of been through similar circumstances. So I think it's a good thing to post up when things don't go right because we're all just human like at the end of the day.
100%. Yeah, even pros go through days like that, huh? Even like the professionals have races where things don't go their way, they have to pull the pin. And I often see that a lot of people nowadays tend to have this mentality of, death before DNF or this type of stuff. But sometimes the best decision or the hard decision is to actually pull the pin and say, I've had enough, or because I'm going to do damage to myself, or just because I'm not there mentally. And I think it comes also from a place of, a lot of courage and inner strength to be able to say, I'm not going to go through this anymore on this day. And if it becomes a habit, then it might be an issue. But if it's just once every other year or whatever, then it's okay. Don't feel embarrassed of putting it out there or ashamed, because we don't feel 100% every time we go out to race. And it's just part of sport. And I think sometimes a better race will come after. If you decide to pull the pin, it'll make you a better athlete at the end of the day.
No, appreciate that. Yeah. No, I think it was definitely when I felt just relief. I'm like, okay, this is the right call. I feel relieved to stop doing something I love. But speaking of kind of DNFs, how about you guys? Have you guys had any experiences with DNFs or been in that position yourself?
I have. I just have one DNF in my entire triathlon career, and that was last year in Ironman Alaska. And that was my plan B for to get my Kona qualification, and I got that earlier in the year. So, and I had everything paid for, airfares, accommodation, and everything. And I went to Alaska, and from the start of the race, it was very rainy and cold, and they shortened the swim to a 70.3 swim. So I was like, it's not even a real Ironman. So I just went through the motions during the swim. I biked the whole thing, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna treat this as a training session. I don't need to, waste all of my cookies on this race, because mentally I wasn't there, and I knew deep down that if I went through the whole race and fight, I was gonna feel empty for Kona, and mentally I was not gonna be in a good headspace. So I just my dad was there with me in that race, and when I got off the bike, I told him, you know what, I'm just gonna run 21Ks and call it a day, because I want a hamburger, a hot shower, and I just want to go to the hotel. I don't want to be cold anymore. So that's what I did, and yeah, I feel, you know, in a way proud that my macho mentality didn't show up and was like, you need to finish this. It was just a race to qualify to Kona, and I had that already, and I treated it as a training day. And yeah, I'm proud that I was actually, being able to say I'm done, because I don't want to waste all my bullets for my next race. That's my one and only DNF.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially something like Kona. Like, you do not want to go into that race tired. I'm guessing Alaska would have been later in the summer. So that's getting pretty close to Kona time anyways. And that's when you don't want to go into just cooked. And
Yeah.
a couple Ironmans in a year, big effort regardless.
Yeah. And this was like in August or September, so very, very close to Kona. So that, I think I did the right decision, and my coach was very proud of me for doing that.
No, it absolutely sounds like it. How about you, Josh? Have you had any experiences with DNFs, or are you more death before DNF?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it's. I have not had a DNF yet. I have not raced as much as you guys have either. So there's that going for me. But I mean, I'm almost of the mentality now after this week and what I've experienced that DNS. I didn't start my 3-hour long run, and that was a decision. I think my old self would have been like, I got a month to get to this marathon in this race, in my next race, and I got to get the hours in. And if I don't get them in, that old mentality would have pushed through. I would have taken 6 Advil instead of 4, or whatever it might have been, and that would have set me back even further. So that mentality, I think what you did this weekend, I kind of compared to that. Hey, in Oceanside, my first 70.3 earlier in the year, I almost DNF'd it. I almost didn't get through the swim, but I was able to slow myself down, as we talked about with you on your swim last week, and push through it, because I did want to finish that race. I was in a good spot. I was recovered. I was ready. So there are those moments where you feel like you want to DNF and you can't listen to it as well. So push through it and actually get through and finish it. So there's a fine line for sure. And you were able to recognize the difference this weekend. So that's another big part, I would say too. So I am definitely going to experience a DNF. I just haven't raced enough yet.
I like how you put that, though. It is true. There are definitely times where, like you experienced at Oceanside, or I did at Calgary, where it's like, okay, you need to push through. It's going to be hard at times. And especially as you get into the longer distances, at points, it's going to suck. And if it doesn't, you're not going hard enough if you're trying to be hard. So
Yeah.
those are the times where you got to toughen up and push through, for sure.
You got to remember, we're still talking endurance sports and pain. And
if an Ironman feels good, you didn't do it.
Yeah. It's not enjoyable. The last hour, it's just pain, no matter who you are.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. And I think we saw some pain faces this weekend over the PTO US Open, but we'll definitely dive into that in a little bit here. Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing some of your insights, guys, and just some different perspectives on it. It was definitely, my case, the right call. Fired up to go into some actual training for the goal, which is Kona. The bike races were kind of some fun stuff on the side. Yeah. So I am feeling fired up to focus in again, which gets me excited. Yeah. But let's jump into a few of our segments here. We have our What the F moment of the week. And this is something that is starting to get pretty shitty across triathlon. We have more water quality issues. So there was a lot of talk after the last WTCS race with a number of athletes getting sick from the water. And apparently there were some test results of the water quality that were not great. Now, British Triathlon are saying those were taken somewhere else and it shouldn't have affected the athletes, but a lot of athletes have come forward saying, yeah, no, we're sick. So that one is a little under investigation at the moment, but it's looking like the Paris test event might be affected by water quality issues too. Yep. So World Triathlon is looking at it now, and it might be a case of having to maybe do it as a duathlon if the waters in the Seine are not up to standard for the Paris test event, which would be really unfortunate because one, it totally changes up the race. I mean, if I was racing, I'd be all about it. But these Olympic athletes are pretty good at swimming, so I don't want it.
Yeah.
But two, it could affect a lot of the qualification standards for athletes. A lot of them have some automatic qualifications or considerations with the test event that go away if it's not a full triathlon. So wanted to get your guys' thoughts here on, just the situation with water quality issues once again affecting the top level of the racing in triathlon.
So I think, it definitely keeps coming up. I know even early in the year, whether it's an ocean swim or river swim, it's talked about. It seems like at almost every event, it's somebody, whether it's on a Facebook group for that event or what, the stuff is coming up, and what other standards across the different brands and the different races, and why are these people getting sick? There's so many variables that we don't know. The three of us especially don't know what's going on the inside, but we can talk about it and speculate what's going on and what could be done. But it would definitely be unfortunate if the races themselves had to change and went to a duathlon. We have an interview that's going to get aired with Ben Hoffman where we talked about the importance of the Paris test event with him and his guided athlete, and so many people that were in Milwaukee this weekend that are going over to do the Paris test events for specific reasons to qualify. So that would be very unfortunate, but you can't change the water quality overnight either. So it's a tough situation for everyone involved.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm playing armchair race organizer here, but there's plenty of, not plenty of time, but they still have a couple of weeks before the test event. So my suggestion would be, don't wait and see if God comes and clears the quality of the river. Go somewhere else, go to Nice, use another course, make it a triathlon. Okay, yeah, it's not going to be on the venue, whatever, but it's still going to be a swim, bike, and run. That way, all the Olympic qualification process stays the same. And it's not a duathlon, which I'm sure a lot of athletes are, can't wait for a duathlon. But a lot of athletes are waiting to be a triathlon. So, I would just change the venue for the test event and see if in 1 year's time they can make that water, a better quality. And what you mentioned, Jenna, the Observer actually wrote something on the water quality on Sunderland. It was 57 athletes who got sick on that triathlon. So like half of the field.
Yeah, that's not a coincidence.
Yeah, no. One thing is, yes, we want to race, but another thing is I want to race and I don't want to get sick. I don't want to race and have my health, get thrown out of the window because I'm swallowing, God knows what. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with this timing too, because if you get some kind of bug or parasite or like sick at this point, when you do have things like the test event coming up, that is devastating for athletes. That could be their Olympic qualification gone. So hopefully, like you said, hopefully they clear it up. Hopefully it's not an issue for next year when we get to the big race. That would be devastating to see the Olympics get switched up to a duathlon because it's just not quite the same. You want to see the best at the highest level performing what they do best in the world.
Yeah.
Not having to adjust on the fly last minute with the duathlon. So fingers crossed they get it figured out and we get some safe, clear waters for next year. Or like you said, Fede, maybe they realize, okay, this could be an issue. Let's plan in advance, do it somewhere else from the get-go.
Yeah.
It sucks for triathlon, but it really sucks for some of the open water swimming events because they have no other options. It's, you can't swim in the open water. You can't just go do laps in a pool or circle swim around there. So hopefully they get it cleaned up so we can have an uninterrupted games.
Yeah. Fingers crossed for that.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into our social media of the post now, or social media post of the week. I can talk. Now, Josh sent this to me, and I was dying laughing at this. Tell us all about it, Josh. What do you got?
Well, we'll get into how we got to this picture in a little bit when we go over the results. But if anyone saw or heard about this weekend, we all know that the GOAT, Jan Frodeno, won the male race. And there was a picture of them all standing up on the podiums, and they all got to wear the GOAT cheese heads, or the cheese heads. So I took it a step further, marked that up as a story for my own Instagram account and called it Goat Cheese. So it kind of got a little bit of legs, and I got a few comments and people upset that they didn't think of that. and then come to find out, Jan was doing an interview and had no idea what the whole cheese Wisconsin thing was about. So it kind of continued on throughout the weekend as well. So yeah, goat cheese is our new thing here. And what a great weekend for the goat and for cheese.
Oh, it was so good. I loved that so much. Well, I think that pulls us right into the race that we all want to talk about because we were all watching every minute of it. The PTO US Open. Now it absolutely delivered everything we were hoping for. There was no like crazy runaway wins or anything. It was constantly changing and riveting the entire time. So Fede, tell us all about it. What happened at the PTO US Open this weekend?
Oh yeah, it was amazing to watch, to have those fields both in the men's and the women's side. It was just unbelievable, and the quality of the athletes, it's just off the charts now. We had an exciting weekend of racing, and another thing that made it super fair was, Race Ranger was there making it a 20-meter draft zone rule. So it was a very fair and honest race, and this 100K distance seems to be the best of both worlds when it comes to mixing, the short course, high intensity, high pace type of racing, and the thresholdy type of effort, which is a 70.3. So it's a nice way of having both short course athletes and long course athletes battling it out, which, it's going to favor a bit more of the young guys and the guys that are coming through the WTCS ranks. But it was a very good race. And on the men's side, we had the one and only Jan Frodeno taking the win at 41, who is I think is turning 42 later this month. So yeah, he's not the youngest. He's not the youngest. He did a couple of interviews, and his mind games played out. He actually mentioned Maka and drawing inspiration from him with his mind games, because during an interview he was talking to Christian and he was saying, I don't know, buddy, but you talk a big game and you never push the front group. Maybe this time you should. And that's exactly what Christian did. And of course he paid it on the run with cramps, and even on the dismount line, Christian was cramping. So, it just goes to show how mentality plays a role in triathlon, and how Jan is sneaking into his opponent's minds, with this type of stuff. But kudos to him that he managed to pull that off. He swam with the front group, biked with the front group. He was talking about he was keeping a very consistent pace where a lot of the guys were yo-yoing and making a lot of surges. So his effort was a bit more consistent, and that's the recipe for a long course triathlon. You want to have a nice steady pace, not a lot of spikes, and his running is coming along nicely. We're starting to see the Jan that we know with the run, and he managed to stay in control, and it seemed like he had a couple of bullets left if he needed them, which I mean, it's going to be exciting to see him in his last dance up there, hopefully getting the W. And we had the fastest run in PTO history with Jason West. He ran 56:22 for 18Ks. He was moving so quick, and he collapsed at the finish line. I'm sure you guys saw the footage or the race live. He was a man in a mission, and he made Christian look like he was an age grouper, just blazing past him. Um, and then Christian finished third. So we had Germany, the US, and Norway on the men's side. And this is not the first time we saw Christian cramping. This happened last year in Edmonton. So, and he talked about his bike position and that maybe it had to do something with not getting used to the TT position. So, listeners, if you want to train for a specific event, make sure you train with the right equipment. You are on your TT bike, on the aero bars, because you don't want to be investing a lot of time, effort, and money and being, something that's totally avoidable with training with the right equipment. Of course, Christian has a bigger goal in mind. Well, not bigger goal, but like he has an ambition of repeating as Olympic champion. So yeah, he's training on the road bike a lot more than on the TT bike. So and he said it. So that's very nice to hear that he knows that was his mistake of not putting in a lot of time on the TT bike. But yeah, and on the women's side, we had a very dominant performance. If you want to hold on
for a second here.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we chat a little bit about the race and kind of what we saw out there with the PTO US Men's Open, because it was just such a fun race to watch in there with Christian kind of off the front. But I don't know if you guys saw any of the interviews beforehand. They had the most awkward interview with Jan and Blumenfeld, sitting next to each other, answering questions.
Cringe
so
moment.
Awkward.
His daughter and
Jan comparing him to his daughter. It's and just egging him on, you know what? We're still waiting. You keep talking, but we're still waiting here. And Jan has never done. I don't think he's done this distance before, so it was fun to see that, but it was almost, you could see Christian just didn't quite know how to react to Jan being very kind of upfront about it. He was not aggressive, but very much, I'm the GOAT, sit back down. We'll see how you go here because I got this, right? It was just a very confident and outspoken Jan, and that's where we all should have taken it as, oh no, how did we not pick Jan for the win here? But this 100K distance really seems to mess with athletes because they're racing it more like an Olympic distance with the intensities on the bike. And then you just see cramp after cramp and dropouts. And it's crazy to see compared. These are athletes who know how to race and they do 70.3s, which isn't that far off. But this 100K is just so aggressive on the swim bike. I think it's really throwing a lot of athletes for a loop. They don't quite know how to pace it. And I know if you're not in the front, you're not coming back into it unless you're Jason West.
Yeah, which would be.
And it was interesting too that it seemed there was a big difference too with the non-wetsuit race, obviously, but then coming out, a lot of them had their tri-suits on.
Oh yeah.
And so Jan had to try and figure out how to get his tri-suit up, and then forgot to take his swim skin off, and was lucky enough to have a nice official that said, it's okay, I'll take it. And that carried over into the women's race too. There was a whole bunch of issues with the swim skins and the tri-suits and things. So that was an interesting piece of it for me, but you can definitely see it was the swim was, and the Aussie exit, I think, just adds a whole new aspect to it too. And that's a long run. 150 yards or something like that. So to get back out and to have in that men's race, I think that front group was 8 guys. And it seemed like that was a pretty big pack for a front group with some of the swimmers that were in there. So there were some people that were pushing the swim, like Christian, more so than people expected, I would think. And then they all get out on the bike and man, he took off again too. So it was, but like you said, Fede, Jan just kind of held and held. And I think a lot of it was that strategy that he had figured out on the bike course where he made up a lot of ground on the 180s. And there were 7 of them. And then the technicality of coming through transition 7 times. I think that's where Jan kind of attacked and made up some gap, and there wasn't as much of the race ranger penalties within the transition area either. And he kind of let people get ahead of him on the flats, and then he attacked on the turns and some of the hill area, I guess.
Yeah, I think, you know what? Unfortunately, though, I think we have another case of rules not being across the board the same. So, you know, you want to see Jan be the GOAT and do his thing and be amazing in there. But he had some questionable moments. Like another athlete got a time penalty for not having their equipment inside their box, where Jan's out there handing off his swim skin to an official, which, of course, there's no advantage there. He had to slow down to do it. But is it a case of because he's a big name, they're not going to give him the same penalty he gave someone who was less well known in the women's race? Like it just,
Yeah, she
you
had a
hate to
huge
see it. If there's
penalty,
going to
right?
be rules. Yeah, if there's going to be rules, address them across the board. Like we just saw with Zippergate in there too. Like if it's going to be for one athlete, it should be for all of them. And that's kind of frustrating when you see some situations like that. Now that being said, Jan still absolutely like smashed everyone out there.
He
Even
was
if he had
on
run back
point.
and win. But yeah, it's just you hate to see those questionable moments where it should be the same across the board.
Yeah.
Well, and we also had one of the men who was DQ'd for being lapped on the bike course, yet he was never lapped.
Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah.
And one official thought he was, but the PTO, it was, so that was strange too. And now you are talking professionals and their livelihood and their money, and he was not trying to DNF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know, but it was, you know, at the end of the day, it was very cool. I think this really helps cement Jan as the GOAT. Like he just jumps in. This is something even Christian keeps chasing and hasn't quite made it yet. Jan has just shown if he's fit across any distance, he can do it all. Like it was seriously impressive.
So one thing that I did want to touch on too, because we talked about the cramping and the bike positioning with Christian and things, and there were some issues with Magnus and stomach. I think there were some other men that DNF'd as well. Jackson had some stomach issues on the run. So one of the things I've heard some people talk about is getting used to the 4 p.m. that late start time.
True.
And how that adjusts, because these guys are used to doing these 6:30, 6 a.m. races. So what you fuel with isn't as necessarily as important on a morning like that as, okay, what do I do until 3 p.m.? What do I do all day? So that's become one of the things that I think they're starting to realize they got to get dialed in better. So I don't know if you guys have thought about that or race later in the day and how you've handled it.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because if you're kind of fasting overnight and then you just have one small meal in the morning, then you've got a lot less in your stomach digesting compared to, starting that 4 p.m. You've had a couple meals, you've had a couple snacks, and that takes a bit of time to go through your digestive system. So I could absolutely see how that would be tough to get that timing and nutrition right, because it's so different to what you do. And most pros aren't, unless you're like Lionel Sanders, aren't heading out at 4:00 for a workout. They're usually done and putting their legs up by then. So that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but I could absolutely see how that would mess with the body a bit.
Yeah. And adding
for
to
sure. I think we definitely saw it.
Adding to your point, Josh, Magnus didn't race ITU, and Jan did, and a lot of the ITU races are in the afternoon. So I'm pretty sure he had it dialed in, and he knows his body perfectly. So a lot of these ITU athletes, they have a very big breakfast, and just before the race, they have a couple of rice with honey and whatever. And he's been doing that for years. So I think that the guys who raced ITU back in the day were the ones who managed it best with the later afternoon race.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, let's jump into the women's race. It was no less exciting with a bunch of change-ups all throughout the field, throughout the day. Fede, tell us all about it.
Yeah. Before that, just adding a friend of the show, Frederick Funk. He rode a 145, 45.5 k's per hour, for the 80Ks, and he averaged, wait for this, 336 watts on average for the 80Ks. Oh God,
Unreal.
he said he overbiked a bit because he was a bit excited that he was racing Jan, and he told us that he had raced him a couple times before, but he didn't have the best races. But it was very exciting to see him push the pace on the bike and bridge the gap, and yeah. So I'm sure his time is gonna come and over this distance. I just wanted to mention that before we jumped on the women's race.
Yeah.
Love it. So good to see. And it sounds like he was pretty excited to race Jan, and unfortunately didn't quite have, I'm guessing, the day he wanted in there. But man, it's hard to come out against Jan when he's on form like that.
Yeah. I don't think anybody can beat Jan when he's on his best day. But yeah, let's go over the women's race. Like I was saying, we had a very exciting race. We had a very stellar performance from Americans, Taylor Niv. She is probably, I would say, over the 70.3 distance and the 100K distance, I don't think there's a better biker than her. We have yet to see her over the full distance because I reckon Daniela Rief is the best cyclist when it comes to the full distance. But she just rode so hard. And she's a very good swimmer as well. And she's also a very good runner. She was, she and Ashley Gentle were out of this world on the women's race. Taylor rode a couple minutes faster than Ashley, and Ashley rode, a minute faster than Paula, which she's a Canadian TT champion, and she's heading to Glasgow for Worlds on the time trial. So just goes to show the level of fitness and quality that we are seeing now. I think we're seeing a very exciting era in triathlon, both in the men's and the women's side. But yeah, Taylor took it. Ashley came in second, and Paula Finley came in third place. Taylor had the fastest bike, and Ashley had the fastest run in 1:05:08. That was the run from Ashley, and 1:55:14. That was the bike from Taylor, which I'm very curious to see what sort of power she pushed. She's a bit, she doesn't show a lot, but I'm sure we can work a bit of reverse engineering with her weight and time and speed and everything to figure out an estimate of the power she pushed.
Yeah, it was such a good race to watch in there. I know there are some questions around Taylor's kind of run fitness and potential injuries there. So you knew she was going to crush the bike. That is no question with Taylor Nipp. She's just going to go hard there. But it was seriously impressive how well she ran off of that, not only off a hard bike, but after, coming back to the run completely healthy. So she is a real contender for the Olympics and the test event coming up here. It'll be very cool to see how she goes there. And of course, got to give a shout out to Paula Finley. It's crazy. She went straight from the PTO to a flight out that night to Glasgow to go take on the World Championships for the time trial. So It will be so cool to see how she does over there. And I wonder if that affected her race at all, knowing that was coming up. I don't think so, because it's still the PTO Open where there's lots of cash and prestige on the line. So you wouldn't be giving up anything for that. But it'll be cool to see how she turns it around. And it was fun to see that Ashley Gentle chasing down Taylor Nibb. And you're questioning, okay, can she make it? Is it coming close? But Taylor Nibb, the splits weren't going down. She just held her off and ran so impressively. It was wicked.
It was very, they kept pointing to the fact that every one of her laps was 13 minutes. Oh, it was they were so consistent. And nobody looks at their watch more than Taylor Nibb either. she was checking it left and right, and then she's got her dad, and then she's yelling at somebody else. Yeah. So she's definitely all about her metrics and her stats and knowing where she needs to be. And Ash was just kind of putting it down, and we knew she was running. And I think there was a good stretch in there where Ash wasn't getting the gap decrease that she was hoping to get. And then she kind of turned it on again the last lap or two. it would have been interesting to see another lap or two and where we would have ended up there, because she was definitely coming. And even with God, I mean, if we go back to the men's race, Jason West, he might have passed you on before the end of the next lap. I mean, he was. And by the way, with that too, he actually was upset with the run. His goal time was, I think, actually like 15 or 20 seconds faster.
Yeah,
is what he was hoping to go for.
Oh man!
But at the end of the day, he was excited for second. And I think it's same with the women's race. Paula looked as happier than the top two, and she seemed really stoked to get to the line third and feel good about her race. And I think they actually held on to Taylor Knibb on the bike more so than they expected either, especially coming off of what happened in Dallas. I mean, she increased that to 7+ minutes coming off the bike in Dallas. So this year it was only less than 2.
Yes.
And there were some really good bike performances where Taylor did not separate herself, but what Taylor did do is increase her run fitness and was able to hold on to a smaller lead.
Yeah, and Ash biked really well. Like she was right there with the group for most of it, which I think surprised some people in there too, especially hanging on with Paula Findlay and everything for most of it. So it's just cool to see how much the level of the women's racing is going up here, and these PTO races definitely bring out the best in them, and having those top names racing more regularly is just fun to watch, but it forces everyone to keep upping their game. So it's so good to see. Although one thing that did annoy me on the commentating of it was a lot of talking about the girls and how they're almost attempting to race like the men. And there were some comments in there where I was like, okay, and then talks about the equipment and stuff. The reality is, although the prize money is the same in triathlon for women and men, the sponsorship dollars are not the same and the packages are not the same. So I think it's less so a case of the men are putting more effort into the aerodynamics and the equipment of their bike. It's just there are more funds and more sponsorship dollars to do those things. But anyways, there are just a few comments in there that were a little bit disparaging for the women. Like they're almost trying to get to the level of the men's, but no, it's a different game in there. There's some circumstances there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even on Friday night, I was texting back and forth with a friend towards the end of the race, and we're like, are they going to let Rennie ask a question? And she's just kind of sitting there waiting for her chance. I was like, okay, there's question 5, there's question 6, there's question 7. Like, is Rennie going to be able to ask Jan a question? I don't know what's going on right now.
Yeah. Bad. No, it's yeah, I won't go on too much of a rant about that, but the racing, this just proves that women's racing is as exciting as the men's, if not more so. And there's so much going on in these races that you cannot turn away for a minute, or else you're going to miss some big moves and some big exciting points in these PTO races. But did we have anything else going on? I know there are a few races. I think they're all overshadowed a bit by the PTO US Open, but I hear there are a few other people out there on the course.
Yeah. We had the European champs in Estonia, I believe. Let me just double check that, because last year the European champs for 70.3 were in Elsinore in Denmark, and this year it changed location. Let me just confirm that. Yeah, it was in Tallinn, Estonia, the European champs, and we had a lot of athletes racing this European champs, and we had Belgium's Peter Himmerich taking the win in 3:36. Then we had New Zealand Mike Phillips, who this guy, for those of you who don't know him on this side of the world, he is an uber cyclist. Like this guy can, if he gets out of the water with a guy like Magnus and Kinley and all of those guys, he is a force to be reckoned with on the bike. And then we had Italian Alessandro Fabian coming in third place for the European champs. Over the women's side, we had Laura Philipp, who was very interesting to see because she pulled out of the US Open. Everybody was speculating that it was due to injury or something, but no, She was on the start line for the European champs, which is, I don't know. I don't know what her train of thought was.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely, because she is like an A-type caliber athlete who would have pushed the pace in on the PTO race. But yeah, would be interesting to see what her mind was when she decided not to come to the States to do the PTO race. But yeah, anyways, she took the win in 3:39. Then we had Swiss Imogen Simmons coming in 4 flat and Emma Pallant Brown in 4:02 for the European champs, which these races are now starting to give slots for a Topo World Champs, which Jenna has already qualified for, and me and Josh have yet to get our slots.
Team meet up and
Yeah, we need to up it up a notch, Josh and I, for our next races. And then we had 70.3 Gdynia in Poland, a smaller caliber race. We had Wilhelm Hirsch taking the win from Germany. Then we had Croatian Stranja Tranic coming in second, and another German Nico Margarf coming in third place. And this was men only type of race. There was no pro field on the women's side. But yeah, everything was overshadowed. We had Challenge London, who Sam Laidlow won. But yeah, everything was in the back seat because we all were watching the PTO US Open for sure.
Yeah, that's another one where you kind of question why Laidlow didn't come up to do the US Open, and kind of I'm almost wondering if those athletes, they needed maybe a little bit of a confidence boost, get a win under their belts, just to kind of go out and have a solid day out without destroying themselves. Maybe, I don't know. Be curious to hear their thought process when there's a ton of money and attention on the line, and they kind of go do some of these smaller races instead. But
Yeah. I mean, for Sam, I kind of understand.
Yeah, I can't understand it either. It's that whole Milwaukee scene just is a whole different level. That venue, I thought everything was just so well done this whole weekend, and dealing with all of, 8,000 athletes in town for the USAT National Age Group Championships, and I think we had somebody, the same guy, Matt. I forget his last name. Matt won the Olympic and the sprint in the age group. I mean, just like some crazy performances in Milwaukee this weekend. Something in the water in Milwaukee on the good side.
It's a lot of cheese.
On the good side, right? Yeah, it's all the cheese. Although I can't imagine cheese would be too good as a pre-race meal. Just saying.
Cheese and beer post-race, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. Oh man. Did we have anything else going on this weekend?
Well, we, like I said, Paula Finley is over to Glasgow to race the individual time trial, and we had over the weekend, guys that rode the Tour de France taking the road race, and just to talk you guys, yeah, it was amazing to see finally a very solid race from Mathieu van der Poel, from the Netherlands. He was over the moon. He was crying on the podium. He didn't have the best tour, and he fell off the bike and got on the bike again and ended up winning the race. He held off guys like Wout van Aert and Tadej Pogacar. So amazing.
Unreal. You love to see it, and it's definitely an incredible time in cycling when you see names like that backing up after the Tour de France. It is very cool to see, and it just looks badass. He's crossing the line with like his kit torn up because he went down on the bike.
Yeah,
still managed to tap out the front, just destroy Wout today. Like that was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool to see. Yeah,
I think we had some like GOAT status news in the Tour de France world this week too, with somebody signing a new sponsorship that we might be able to see break some records next week.
So excited to see Cav has a team. Oh my goodness.
Hey,
it is going to be so exciting to watch.
You heard it here first. We knew he was not going to go anywhere, right?
Totally. Yeah. We were 100% in the know. Well, and next week might have to, I'll see if I can get a little insight. I'll be sitting down with Jens Vogt at LATAP Canada there. So I'll see if I can get some of his thoughts on the tour and what's going forward with bike racing. And yeah, just get some of his thoughts on the racing right now, because he is a character. He is so much fun. So I'll see if I can get a little bit of interview time with him and pop it into the podcast here. I know we're a triathlon podcast, but we're slightly obsessed with all endurance sports. So you get to hear a little bit of it all here.
Absolutely. And I guess the triathlon world is gonna be following Paula now on the weekend. So cycling is gonna have a lot of new fans this weekend.
Oh, I'm so curious to see how she goes. I almost wish she didn't do the PTO US Open though, and just went in to do the time trial world champs, because that run has to take something out of your legs, right?
Yeah.
That's a quick turnaround. I would love to see Paula just focus on this and go after it, because I know people think, okay, Canadian cycling TTs, yeah, okay, it's a little softer, but she went up against some pro tour riders and just destroyed them. So it'd be so cool to see. I'm excited.
It was almost like she was happy when Ash went by her and she was gone. And it was like, okay, I'm in third and I'm getting my splits from Eric or whoever. And she's like, I'm holding on to third. So it was like, she just enjoyed that run more so than if it was like a tight race and she had to fight for third, would be my guess. So I think that might've been that's what she was smiling at the end. Like, I get to go over and still have fresh legs. I'm feeling good. And I think she even posted that she felt good the next day. So she's pretty amped up for this bike ride for sure.
It's going to be so good. It's seriously impressive, the level of cycling in the men and women in triathlon. They're not just triathletes who ride bikes. They are legitimate cyclists.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think she even has ambitions to make it to the Olympics in the individual time trial. So hopefully it goes well in Glasgow this weekend, and she can get a spot for the Canadian team. It'll be really cool to see her. She went to the Olympics in triathlon, and then watching her in the individual time trial, that would be pretty cool to see from Paula.
I mean, a Canadian redhead from Alberta, there might be a few reasons cheering for her.
There you go.
Her hometown is headed for that. No, it's just cool to see triathletes really on the world stage in the individual sports too. It's very neat. Well, was there anything else you guys wanted to talk about here before we wrap it up for the week? I know we had quite a lot to chat about this week.
Yeah.
No, I think that's it. And I think if anyone's following the social pages too, we're going to start doing some more of these professional athlete interviews and maybe separate some of them out from these mainstream interviews in our main weekly podcast, so that we can get you some more in-depth interviews and not run too long for you too. So we're excited about that. And I think we got a nice little name profiles coming your way. So happy with the Mauna Endurance poll and Jenna's idea on that name. So, and I think we have congrats to Fede this week too, because I don't think we talked about his prediction.
Yeah. Hey.
Because Taylor Knibb, not on the start list, ended up on the start list.
There you go. I know stuff.
Yeah. How did no one pick yawn? That's really, we're all sleep on the goat. How many times do we have to learn this?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. But yeah, stay tuned. We will have out later this week an interview with Ben Hoffman. We had a lot of fun chatting with him and getting some more insight into kind of his background, his history, and some surprising updates for his racing the rest of the year. It's not quite what you would expect. So stay tuned. That'll come out later this week. And other than that, as always, give us a follow on social media at Another Triathlon Podcast, so you see what's going on there, and you can see our social media posts of the week, because that goat cheese is awesome. And then also you can send in any questions there too. And yeah, if you have a moment, if you wouldn't mind just leaving a review and a rating for the podcast, that helps us reach more people, which in turn helps us convince more pro athletes to come talk to us. So that's good for everyone. Other than that, we will see you next week, and stay tuned. Give the podcast a subscribe so you see that Ben Hoffman interview pop up when we've got it uploaded. Otherwise, have a great night, guys. Thanks so much for joining me as always.
No worries.
Thanks, Jenna.
Enjoy, guys. See ya.